had to travel 9,000 miles to learn how community works. And it all started with some M&Ms. In early 2013, I was a new Peace Corps volunteer in the Kingdom of Lesotho, a small country nestled in the heart of South Africa, working hard at integrating in my village called Tabola. For me, a big part of this integration process meant being successful at my job, which was to teach English in primary school. When my grandmother sent me a sizable bag of M&Ms, I saw an opportunity for a great lesson. I poured them in a jar and challenged the 5th grade class to guess how many were in there. And the students were very excited, because it isn't that often you see this many candies at one time in Lesotho. Kids licked their lips as they turned in their guesses. Once everyone had a turn to guess, a winner emerged. Kabelo, a shy, sweet boy who was not mathematically inclined and who struggled in school. And he beamed as I announced his prize, the entire jar of candy. As a teacher, I felt proud with the lesson. Make learning fun? Check. Recognize the efforts of a child who usually trails behind? Check. Show students that careful observation and critical thinking can help you succeed? Check. So you can imagine my surprise when I saw the 5th grade teacher hold out her hand in the universal gesture indicating, "Give me some." Kabelo dutifully filled her palm despite my assurances that the prize was his to do with as he liked. Ignoring me, the teacher then told him to share it with the rest of the class, which he did until it was all evenly distributed. All I could think of was, no, this is not supposed to happen. Kabelo has won. He deserves a brief moment of M&M-induced glory before life falls back into routine. I wanted that sense of distinction and reward for him. Yet no one understood my concern, and I went home that day feeling confused and defeated. So when you join the Peace Corps, the first few months focus on training. Day after day, you study the local language and learn essential steps in building relationships, like community integration. However, unlike training, human behavior is unpredictable. During my time there, many situations arose that left me with a tangled knot of emotions, most often confusion and frustration. It took some serious self-awareness for me to understand that while my feelings may seem instinctive, they are actually nurtured through culture. In the United States, we value independence and competition. When I arrived in Lesotho, I carried these values with me. Yet, I slowly discovered that in Lesotho, community comes first. Its presence is everywhere, in work, in the family, and in personal life. And I could not possibly know my role in community until I had experienced its presence firsthand. The elementary school in my village was an old church with a few walls put in place to mark separate classrooms. 7 grades shared 4 rooms. So kids practically sat on top of one another, while one class studied fractions, trying to drown out the other class, singing their way through the alphabet. It was chaos. After a year of working at site, Peace Corps allows volunteers to work with their community on a project. So I was not surprised when my school colleagues approached me with plans for building new classrooms. We designated a role for everyone. Mine was global fundraising, along with managing the budget, while the village would supply all of the tools, labor, and materials, as well as promote local fundraising. Everyone in the village contributed to this classroom project, from sand, to buckets, to tools, to food for the laborers, to hand-pumped water, even down to the electricity needed for the drill. Some contributed money, and those who had nothing to lend or give used their hands on building day to help with the labor. Within 2 months, the classrooms were built. It was miraculous, and it only happened because community is present in work. In developing nations, you find that most people cannot solve their problems with money because they don't have it. Rather, they apply ingenuity to the resources at their disposal in order to find solutions. Yet, resources are not enough. The drill and the electricity, separate, are nothing. But put them together, and they are a force for change. It required combined networks and skills, mine and Tobola's, for us to accomplish our goal. So community works as a tool when everyone understands it and contributes to a common purpose. People who struggle for access to basic necessities, like education, know this, for it's how communities like Tobola survive. They rely on each other. There is no other way. Community is also present in the family, and this is especially true considering the HIV/AIDS epidemic in the country. According to the Center for Disease Control, about 23% of Lesotho's adult population is living with HIV. That is about 1 in 4 people. A staggering 33% of deaths in the country are caused by HIV/AIDS and/or the illnesses related to them. This makes funerals a weekly event in villages like mine. And I attended a few, including my host father's. When I learned of his passing, my initial reaction was to draw away and let my host family have time alone to mourn. But in Lesotho, the family tree would be more like the family vine, spreading out in all directions and incorporating other plants into it. With everyone calling each other brother, sister, mother, father in basic greetings, family lines are blurred. And when there is a death, community proves to be more than a force. It is also a foundation. A common scene in Lesotho is a woman taking in the children of a neighbor who has passed away. Without any formalities, they are now her children. Another common scene is to help one another maintain tradition. In Lesotho, it is expected that the mourning family will feed everyone who attends the funeral. If a family is too poor to cover these costs, everyone in the village contributes so that that family can send their loved one off with dignity. Support moves beyond the family. So while my initial reaction was to shy away, so as not to intrude, I realized that here, I was not considered a bother, but rather the women of my host family pulled up a chair for me so that I could help peel carrots for the feast. Yet, to truly understand Lesotho's culture of community, I had to face my own limitations. And this occurred when the local water pump in my village broke a few months into my service. I had been intent on pumping my water by hand like my neighbors. It was important for me to prove to everyone and to myself that I could live just like the people in my village and that they would see me as an equal. One day, the fulcrum crumbled and the villagers began using a stick, or tupa, to replace it. Suddenly, the daily task of drawing water, which I had mastered down to 10 minutes, became incredibly difficult. The tupa would slip and fall constantly. Each time I would have to pick it up and set it back carefully in the right place. It would take 2 or 3 times as long to fill my 20-liter bucket. Some days, I would arrive at the pump and the tupa would simply be gone. I would wander the village, asking in broken Sesotho, "Ubona tupa? You see stick?" Of course, I tried to fix it, but to no avail. A week passed, and I reached my breaking point after putting the tupa back 30 times and not a drop of water in my bucket. I was angry at the lack of resources, tired from pumping, and embarrassed that I could not do as the locals do. Apparently, my performance did not go unnoticed. While I tried to hold back tears of frustration, a second grader from my school stepped up, calmly took the handle away, and began to pump for me. And he too would have to put the tupa back constantly. But he filled my bucket, and I thanked him. The next day, I helped one of my students at the well, and a grandmother helped me when it was my turn, and I was too tired to pump my own water. We helped each other, and everyone went home that day with the water that they needed. Community is present in personal life. Now, I think it's easy to judge nations like Lesotho. We ask, why didn't they just fix the problem? And in trying to answer that question, we lose focus on the fact that the broken pump isn't necessarily a problem to the people. For every one problem that an American has, a person in Lesotho has 10. Life there is hard, and fixing the broken pump might not be on the top of the to-do list. The tupa works. It just requires effort. The lack of classrooms, however, will remain a problem until new ones are built. In our American quest to do what is easiest, we overlook community as we become overly efficient at solving problems. With the broken pump, the only solution I saw was to fix it myself in order to get water. But for everyone else, the solution was to help one another to get the water. We forget that community is a tool and a support system, not necessarily a last resort. By incorporating community and finding answers, we can change our definition of solution and how it comes about. These experiences forced me to question a set of assumptions I didn't even know I had. My failed M&M's lesson demonstrated my inability to see that Lesotho culture doesn't operate on a reward system like in the USA. Community comes first. It is present in all aspects of life, even death. In my efforts to integrate, I completely missed the presence of community in the classroom. In order to be successful living with the people of Lesotho, I had to change my perspective so that I could understand theirs. For me, this meant that it wasn't I, a Peace Corps volunteer, was a tool for the community, but rather the community was the tool that I had to learn how to use. So, instead of feeling sorry for Cabello, the M&M's champion, I learned to ask, why feel sorry for him at all? He certainly doesn't feel sorry for himself. While I saw someone being denied his prize, he saw it as a sweeter day for him and all his classmates. Which tastes better to you? Thank you.